Hi everyone, in this lesson we're going to look at expanding triple brackets. So let's look at our first example. I've got x add 4 multiplied by x subtract 3 multiplied by x add 1. In algebraic notation, we don't write the multiplication symbols between these brackets, but we are in fact multiplying them together. So the way to approach this question is the same way we would approach a question like this. 2 multiplied by 3 multiplied by 5. To do this calculation, you would multiply the first two numbers together first to give you 6, and then you would multiply the result by what was left over, and then of course you'd multiply those two together to get your answer. And that's what we're going to do here. We're going to multiply these brackets together. That's like doing our 2 multiplied by 3 to give us 6. And then we'll take that result and multiply it by this bracket on the end. So let's start off by multiplying x add 4 with x subtract 3. And we've seen how to do that in last lesson. We're going to take x and multiply it by the entire bracket, and take 4 and multiply it by the entire bracket. X multiplied by the entire bracket gives us x upon x subtract 3. And 4 multiplied by the bracket x subtract 3 gives us this, 4 upon x subtract 3. From there, I expand each of these single brackets, so this bracket and this bracket in turn. Let's expand our first bracket. X multiplied by x gives me x squared. X multiplied by negative 3 gives me negative 3x. 4 multiplied by x gives me 4x. And 4 multiplied by negative 3 gives me negative 12. Let's tidy up this by collecting our like terms together. Negative 3x add 4x gives me positive x, subtract 12. So that's the result of multiplying these two numbers together. In our example over here, that's equivalent to our 6. We then need to take our result, which is this, and multiply it by our final bracket. We'll take our x squared, add x, subtract 12, and I'll put that in a bracket, and I'll multiply it by my x, add 1. Now what I have to do is I have to multiply every term in the bracket on the left with every term in the bracket on the right. The way I like to think about this is I need to take this bracket and multiply it by x, and take this bracket and multiply it by 1. Let's think about the first of those. X squared add x subtract 12 multiplied by x would look like this. I'm just going to put the x at the front. But I'm effectively multiplying x with the entire bracket, like that. And then I'm going to do 1 multiplied by the entire bracket, like this. And it gives me what I have here. Then what I do is I multiply x by every term inside this bracket, and then I multiply 1 by every term inside this bracket. Go ahead and expand the bracket on the left. X multiplied by x squared is x cubed. X multiplied by x is x squared. X multiplied by negative 12 is negative 12x. That's the first bracket done, and then I'm adding the expansion of this. 1 multiplied by x squared, and I'm doing 1 multiplied by everything, so I just rewrite this bracket as it was, because multiplying by 1 doesn't change anything, and it gives me this answer. Let me just rewrite it over here so we've got a bit more room. Okay, so I've just rewritten what I had down here. Now what I want to do is collect together my like terms. So that means x squareds with x squareds and x's with x's and so on. So I've got an x squared here and another x squared here. And then I need to collect together my x's, so that's the negative 12x, the x like that. The other two terms, the x cubed term and the constant, they have no other like terms, so they're going to remain as they are. So this is equal to x cubed. There's just one of those, so I don't need to do anything with that. Add together my x squared terms, so x squared add x squared is 2x squared. Add together my x terms, so negative 12x add x takes me to negative 11x. And then my constant on the end's negative 12. That is my fully simplified expansion. Pause the video and give this one a go, and then we'll look at the solution together in a second. Okay, let's go ahead and multiply these two brackets together to start off with. So I'll take my x, subtract 5, and my x add 2. And in the last lesson, we talked about how there is a different way to think about doing our expansion that might be a little bit quicker, and that's using this mnemonic FOIL, which stands for first, outer, inner, and last. So I'll multiply my first terms together, so that's x multiplied by x to give me x squared. I'll multiply my outer terms together, that's x and 2, give me 2x. My inner terms, so that's negative 5 and x to give me negative 5x. And my last two terms, so the last terms in each bracket, negative 5 and 2 to give me negative 10. Then what I can do is I can tidy up my like terms, so 2x take away 5x is negative 3x take away 10. The other way to do this question even quicker is to notice that the coefficient of my x term is the sum of the two numbers in my bracket. So negative 5 add 2 equals negative 3, and that's the coefficient of my x term. And that the constant on the end is the product of the two numbers in my bracket. If I do negative 5 multiplied by 2, that gives me the negative 10. That's a quicker way to do it that you'll have seen if you're following along in our curriculum booklets. Okay, so I've multiplied these first two brackets together. I need to then take the result of that and multiply it by x subtract 1. Let's rewrite this. Take my x squared, subtract 3x, subtract 10. And I'll go ahead and I'll multiply it by x subtract 1. What that means is I need to multiply x by everything in the bracket and then multiply negative 1 with everything in the bracket as well. Just to show you what that would look like if we were writing out this extra step is x upon x squared, subtract 3x, subtract 10. And then, so that's x multiplied by everything in the bracket, and then do negative 1 multiplied by everything in the bracket. I find this extra step is helpful just so we don't go wrong. Then I expand each of these brackets in turn. So x multiplied by x squared is x cubed. X multiplied by negative 3x is negative 3x squared. X multiplied by negative 10 is negative 10x. Then move over here, I've got negative 1, and I need to multiply it by each of these. Negative 1 multiplied by x squared is negative x squared. Negative 1 multiplied by negative 3x, so just be careful there, that's our double negative, that gives us positive 3x. And same again, negative 1 multiplied by negative 10 gives me positive 10, like this. Let's go ahead and circle our like terms. So we have our x squared terms. I'm only going to circle them if there's another like term in the expression. So I've got negative x squared here. These are both like terms. Then I've got my x's as well. I've got my negative 10x. Remember, we circle that symbol in front of the term because it tells us whether it's positive or negative. And then I've got my positive 3x. So those are both like terms. And I've left the x cubed in the constant because they don't have any other like terms. So let's tidy up our final answer. This is our simplifying part of the question. So I've got my x cubed. I've got negative 3x squared, take away x squared, so that's negative 4x squared. And I've got negative 10x, add 3x, that takes me to negative 7x. And I need to remember my constant on the end. That is what you should have got for your answer. Okay, so we're going to look at a slightly harder example. Expand and simplify 2x add 1, multiplied by x subtract 2, multiplied by 5 subtract x. As before, let's take these and multiply them together. So 2x add 1 upon x subtract 2. And let's use our FOIL mnemonic to help us remember how to do that. So let's take our first terms, so that's the 2x and the x, multiply them together, give me 2x squared. The outer terms, that's the 2x and the negative 2, give me negative 4x. My inner terms, so 1 and x to give me x, and 1 and negative 2 give me negative 2. Tidying that up, it gives me 2x squared, subtract 3x, subtract 2. I'll then take this and multiply it by 5, take away x. So let's write it the other way. It doesn't matter which way around we write them. So I've got 5 subtract x upon 2x squared, subtract 3x, subtract 2. And again, like before, I do 5 multiplied by every term in that bracket, and I'll do negative x multiplied by every term in the bracket. 5 multiplied by the bracket, I'm just going to rewrite that so that we're keeping track of everything very carefully. So that's 5 multiplied by every term in the bracket, and negative x multiplied by every term in the bracket. I find this way is really helpful so we don't make any mistakes. 5 multiplied by 2x squared gives me 10x squared. 5 multiplied by negative 3x gives me negative 15x. And 5 multiplied by negative 2 gives me negative 10. Then I do negative x multiplied by 2x squared to give me negative 2x cubed. Negative x multiplied by negative 3x, that's a negative multiplied by a negative. That gives me positive 3x squared. And then negative x multiplied by negative 2 give me positive 2x. From here, I'm going to circle my like terms. So let's just keep track of this 2x cubed term. Circling that. So notice I've circled the symbol in front of it because that tells me that it's negative 2x cubed. So there are no other x cubed terms. Let's move on to our x squared terms. I've got 10x squared and I've got positive 3x squared here. And then I've got my x terms, so negative 15x and positive 2x. And lastly, I've got my constant negative 10. I'm not going to circle that because there aren't any others. You might say that's true of the x cubed term as well, and that's true, but I just circled it so we could see that it's negative 2x cubed. So let's list them in order. Let's start with our x cubed term, so it should be negative 2x cubed. And then I'll move on to my x squared term, so I've got 10x squared, add 3x squared, which takes me to 13x squared. I've got negative 15x, add 2x to take me to negative 13x. And then I've got my constant on the end like that. So that's my final answer. Pause the video and give this question a go. Okay, so let's go ahead and multiply these two brackets together to start with. So 2 subtract x multiplied by 3x subtract 5. Again, we can use our mnemonic FOIL. So we'll take the first two terms, so 2 and 3x, and multiply them to give us 6x. We'll take our outer terms, so 2 and negative 5, to give us negative 10. Take our inner terms, so negative x and 3x, give us negative 3x squared. And then we'll take our last two terms, so negative x and negative 5, to give us positive 5x. Let's tidy up our x terms, so I've got 6x and positive 5x, gives me 11x. Take away 10, take away 3x squared. I'm just going to rewrite this so that it's from highest power to lowest power. So negative 3x squared, add 11x, subtract 10. So we've worked out the answer to the multiplication of these two brackets. We then need to multiply that by x add 1. I'll take x add 1 and multiply it by our bracket. And what I want to do is I want to multiply x with everything inside the bracket. And multiply 1 by everything inside the bracket. Expand each bracket in turn. X multiplied by negative 3x squared is negative 3x cubed. X multiplied by positive 11x is 11x squared. X multiplied by negative 10 is negative 10x. Then do 1 multiplied by everything in the bracket. And of course, multiplying by 1 doesn't change the value of anything. I just rewrite that bracket really. Let's start by looking at our like terms. So the x cubed term, I'm just going to circle that. There's only one of them. Then we'll look at our x squared term. So that's positive 11x squared. And we've got negative 3x squared over here. And then we've got our x term. So negative 10x and positive 11x. Let's rewrite this with the highest power first. So that's the negative 3x cubed term. Of the x squared terms, I've got 11x squared, take away 3x squared, which goes to positive 8x squared. Negative 10x add 11x gives me positive x, take away 10 on the end. That's the answer you should have got. The last type of question we're going to look at is a problem solving question, and there are lots of these questions in our curriculum booklets. If you're interested in finding out more about those, you can visit our website mathslogos.com. So I'm going to let you pause the video, give this problem solving question a go, and then we'll look at the solution together in a second. Okay, let's run through it. Ruben is designing a roof space in the shape of a triangular prism. The triangular cross section has a vertical height of x add 1 meters, so that's that length there, and a base of 3x subtract 1 meters. The roof space extends back a distance of 2x add 4 meters as shown in the diagram. Show that the volume of the roof space is 3x cubed add 8x squared add 3x subtract 2 meters cubed. So the volume of the roof space is the cross-sectional area, which is this triangle on the front, multiplied by the depth of how far that goes back, which is the 2x add 4. So we'll say the total volume is equal to the cross-sectional area. So the total volume is equal to the cross-sectional area multiplied by the depth. Effectively, it's this front face multiplied by how far it goes back. Let's have a think about what the cross-sectional area is. So it's a triangle, so we need to bear that in mind. The formula for the area of a triangle is a half multiplied by the base, which is the 3x subtract 1, that in a bracket, multiplied by the height, or the perpendicular height, I should say, which is x add 1. So the cross-sectional area is equivalent to this expression here. We then need to multiply this by the depth, which is 2x add 4. That needs to be in a bracket as well. Okay. So before I go ahead and expand my brackets, I want to see if there's a clever way to deal with this half. And what I want to look for is, are there any factors of 2? Because of course, if I do a half multiplied by 2, it will give me 1. They'll cancel each other out, so to speak. And if you notice in the bracket over here on the right, the 2x add 4, I could multiply everything in that bracket by a half, which would deal with this half at the front. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm just going to rewrite these brackets. So the 3x subtract 1 and the x add 1. And all I'm going to do here is I'm going to do a half multiplied by 2x add 4. I'll just write that down below so you see what I'm doing. I'm just doing this. And I'll expand that bracket in the same way I normally would. A half of 2x is x, and a half of 4 is positive 2. So this just helps me by getting rid of that half, and I'm left with this. From here I expand it in the same way as we've looked at previously in the lesson. Let's do some rough working out, and we'll expand those two brackets down here. That. So we'll do 3x multiplied by x to give me 3x squared. I'm just following FOIL at the minute, so first, outer, inner, and last. I've done my first, that's the 3x multiplied by x. Let's do the outer, which is the 3x multiplied by the 1. Then do your inner, negative 1 multiplied by x, which is negative x. And the last term is negative 1 multiplied by positive 1. Tidy that up, gives you 3x squared, add 2x, subtract 1. So let's rewrite that in here. And then we need to multiply this by x add 2. So to do that, I'm going to take x and multiply it by everything in this bracket. So normally I would show that with more steps, but that's okay. I'll just do it like this. So 3x cubed, add 2x squared, take away x. And then I'll do 2 multiplied by everything in the bracket. That gives me 6x squared, add 4x, take away 2, like that. Then I'm going to collect my like terms. So let's circle our x squared term. So positive 2x squared here, and circle our other x squared term like that. Then I'll deal with my x terms. So I've got negative x here and positive 4x here, like that. Then I can rewrite everything. So 3x cubed is my highest power. Let's deal with our x squared. So that gives us 8x squared. And then I've got my negative x, add 4x, which takes me to positive 3x. Then I've got my negative 2 on the end. Now the questions asked me to show that the total volume of the roof space is 3x cubed, add 8x squared, add x, take away 2 meters cubed, and I've already done that. Let's just write our answer. Therefore, the total volume is equal to, and just rewrite what they want us to show it is. So that's my final answer. The total volume is equal to 3x cubed, add 8x squared, add 3x, take away 2 meters cubed. Well done if you got that right. If you're using our curriculum booklets, you can now complete exercises 1 to 3. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video lesson, it's part of our mathematics curriculum. You can try a free sample on our website at mathslogos.com. We also offer online mathematics lessons for home educating families, co-ops, and schools. So if you're interested in arranging a free trial lesson, drop me an email at scott@mathslogos.com. Thank you.